show. This is a live show. I've not done a shorts. I've done a live show like this for a little while. So let's get into it. The whole situation of I told you so's. Well, before I get there, I cannot believe, was it 3 days ago, it's in baking hot sun, umpiring for a cricket match for Essex Metropolitan game. And now, freezing cold, on a Sunday afternoon, evening, with a blocked nose, flipping, just finished having a barbie downstairs, and now I'm freezing cold. My nose was blocked, and I'm talking like this. This is absolute madness. Less than a week ago, the weather was beautiful, and then before that, I was in Africa, so I spent 10 days in Africa. Of course, the weather's glorious out there, and then I'm freezing cold now. We're in May. What is going on? Anyway, hope you all are well. I hope your Sunday is well as we talk. So, topic of conversation. I told you so. I remember a long time ago, if you're a BWTM long-time listener, you know, and I told you about Ryan Garcia. He's not that good. He's got fast hands, right? Decent left hook, but fights with his chin up in the air, and limited. I said this, and he can be walked down and walked through. My words have come back. Although, don't get me wrong, I like Garcia is a guy that I like. He's very charismatic. He's a guy that you can really be led up the garden path with. He's charismatic. He's a good-looking guy. No, did he? But he's a really charismatic, good-looking guy. You know, you can see. He very much reminds me. He's got a lot of Oscar De La Hoya about him. The one thing I never understood was why Oscar never kind of like. I can see a lot of Oscar De La Hoya in Garcia. Like Garcia's not as talented as Oscar, but he would have been a perfect mentor. But probably so much of probably looking at reflections of one another. That's probably why they don't get on so well. But he would have been a perfect mentor. He's just a taller, longer version of Oscar. Oscar's a lot more talented, puts his punch together better, doesn't box with his chin up in the air, you know, all those sort of things. But he would have been the perfect mentor, I would have thought, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Garcia's performance against Rowley, parts of it was expected, him getting dropped. I expected that. He's got his chin up in the air. He's always boxed that way, and his defence, the shoulder roll, does not work. So a lot of the things that I saw of Garcia there is expected. And the Austrian, the whole talk of people saying, well, that's what happens when you pop. Austrian makes you stronger. So would the Austrian have helped Garcia in that fight? Probably, yes. But clearly, since the situation, all the drug cheating has come out about him, then it's had effects, and now he has got a lot to think about. I mean, Rowley's not technically the best boxer, but he's physically strong. He's big. Yes, Ivan, how you doing? He's big. He's strong at the weight. He's solid at the weight. And Garcia fundamentally is flawed, and I've always said that. It's come to pass. So that's one, Garcia. Although I like Garcia, sometimes. Yeah, I said hi, Ivan. Sometimes in boxing, you just have to be honest. Even if you like a guy, you like a boxer, you just got to be honest and say, you know what, I like you. I love you as a fighter. I'll run home to watch you fight. I'll support your career. However, yeah, I know you fight with your chin up in the air. Some boxing fans, to be fair, they will not see the weaknesses in a fighter, and therefore they'll just see the strengths, and they'll overlook it over and over again until they come up short. And then when a fighter comes up short, they start making excuses for the fighter. It is what it is. Which leads me back to my whole Anthony Joshua case. All those people that were slamming me about Anthony Joshua back then, take it on a few years later when I was saying all the fundamental things he needs to be working on and changing. If you had made that jump to Derek James, say, after the Parker fight, we might not be where we are today, because Derek James would have had more time to work with Anthony Joshua. It's he skipped to Angel Fernandez. A lot of people supported that. They supported him when he went to this guy, Mexican guy, I can't remember his name again now. I can see him now. Robert Garcia. Robert Garcia had no history in the heavyweight division. He trained one guy that was a journeyman heavyweight. It's madness. Joshua should have gone with James Ali Bashir. He had James Ali Bashir. James Ali Bashir met Joshua in camp when he was training with Klitschko. In that camp of Klitschko was Dillian White, Richard Towers, Jonathan Banks. I said to Dillian White, didn't I? Who else was in that camp? There's quite a few others heavyweights. There's a whole lot of heavyweights sparring Vladimir Klitschko. So Joshua had no excuses whatsoever because he had the perfect blueprints of how to set up a heavyweight camp, a professional heavyweight camp, and the professionalism required behind it. And James Ali Bashir, who went on to go and train Alexander Usyk, among others, Shannon Briggs, Jim McCline, you know the story. Heavyweight knowledge that Joshua, had he stick with James Ali, had he gone to Ali Bashir, he would have, I think, been a much better heavyweight than what we've got produced. We've got a pretty bang average heavyweight in Joshua now, who's heavily flawed. And all these people that were defending Anthony Joshua and his actions back then. Oh, Joshua's this, Joshua's that, Joshua's this. You can see the shortcomings. And now you see where Joshua is. He's in no man's land. Got bashed up by Dubois. He's talking about, oh, now, his body needs to repair, he needs to rehabilitate. He wouldn't need to be getting rehabilitated because for the first point, he would never have got himself in the ring with Andy Ruiz because the people around him, the think tank that would have said, sport Andy Ruiz as a disaster of a fight for Joshua. He was well open to the left hook. He was open to the left hook before he fought Ruiz. He was open to the left hook with Vladimir Klitschko. He was open to the left hook with Dillian White. And that's where the problem started back then with the Dillian White fight. But people overlooked that. Oh, it was a great fight for Klitschko. Do you know what I mean? So these are the things, as far as I'm concerned, we look at hindsight. I don't look at the hindsight because I look at these things and say, well, I called it way back in the Parker fight. And if I'm looking at these things, I can see these things. And I'm talking to Ali Bashir, and I've been talking to Uncle Bashir for what, 13 years? Do you think I wouldn't learn a thing or two from boxing? I don't just sit there and have conversations about current fights. There are a lot of conversations we have off air, and I learned so much from it. And now, looking at Joshua's career, that's another one. I told you so. Look at him now. Look at him now. The people just look at, a lot of boxing fans don't look at the technical side of things and longevity. They look at the here and now, the fast food. Oh, look at the knockout he had here. Oh, look at he knocked that guy out. Or look at the 5 punches he put together. That does not make boxing. Hey, Shook, how you doing, man? Thank you, sir. That does not make you for a nice combination. Does not make you a complete boxer. You knocking a guy with one overhand right does not make you a complete boxer. You need to be able to move forward. You need to be able to move back. You need to be able to move side to side. And your style needs to be able to be adaptable to deal with the different challenges you're going to face as a boxer. Maybe you might meet a slugger one week. Then next fighter you might fight might be a mover. Next time you'll fight a guy that can fight good on outside. Next guy is better on mid-range. Some guys up close very good. Some guys are southpaw, tricky southpaw. There are different styles in boxing. There are guys that get in and get out, sniper style, like David Hay, for example. There's so many different styles of boxing. So therefore, the challenge that you face, you need to be adaptable for it if you want to call yourself a world champion elite. So when you jump from one trainer to another trainer to another trainer to another trainer, if somebody can explain to me what Anthony Joshua's style is today, I'd like to know, because the style is now hybrid. Because he's a boxer, is he a puncher? What is Anthony Joshua? So all these people that will say, yeah, Joshua should go with Robert Garcia. Shocking, disastrous, absolute disaster. Where's that led him? Now he went to Derek James. And from Derek James, he's gone to Ben Davison. The Ben Davison went and then turned around and told him. The Ben Davison turned around and went and told him to go for the knockout. Someone like James Bashir would have turned around and told him, look, mate, you're going to have to box, clear your head and box and get yourself into this fight, the second half of this fight. That's what Bashir would have told him. That's what any decent trainer would have told you. Not go for the knockout. And that's why Joshua's come up short each and every time. Poor instructions, poor game plans. You fight Usyk the first time, you suddenly think the second time you're going to attack him and just go and attack him so you're going to win the fight. You're fighting with a guy who's got a huge IQ. But the first thing you should have done, knowing you're going to fight Usyk in rematch, you should have got James Ali Bashir in the corner. Because Ali Bashir trained Usyk. So surely you would know how to beat him. Don Charles and Dubois did the right thing. They got Ali Bashir's advice. And he was training with him. That's why Dubois was able to box the way he did against Usyk. I don't think that's going to work in a rematch. Because Usyk is a guy that adapts and changes and makes adjustments. These guys basically fight the same way over and over and over again and not adaptable. That makes them just good fighters, not great fighters. There's a difference. You look at Joe Kawasaki, you look at Mayweather. These guys can adapt on the fly. Something Andre Ward, when things are not going right or not going the way, they make it right. They make the adjustments. And that's the difference between a good, a bang average fighter and a great fighter. But anyway, so let's put Anthony Joshua to one side. I told you so. And even before Anthony Joshua, do you remember when I told you that boxing is going to turn into WWE? Do you remember when I said those things and people laughed at me? All those people are laughing, you see. They laughed, but they didn't know. They didn't know. Look now. Turkey Al-Sheikh has come along now. We have boxing that's going to end up being like a WWE script. And I told you it was being set up that way. When I looked at Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, it was like Shane McMahon or Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, and how that nonsense was playing out in the WWF, which became WWE. SmackDown versus Raw. Tell me if that's not happening now. Was that Warren versus Hearn? And when I told you that Warren and Hearn is going to happen, and now we've got the 5-5. Tell me I didn't say this was going to happen. Tell me I didn't tell you Mike Tyson was going to come back and fight. Tell me I didn't tell you that it's going to be a boxing league. Didn't I tell you these things? Did I tell you that YouTubers will end up coming on and watching and commentating on boxing events? Did I not tell you these things? They're all happening now. They're all happening. All this stuff I told you way before it happened. And now it's all happening. Open your eyes, boxing people. Open your eyes. A lot of this shit is scripted. I'm sorry. It seems scripted to me. How am I able to see these things 5-6 years into the future? How am I able to see these things happening right now before our own eyes? So I don't look for just today for today. I look today and think how the things you're doing, and maybe it's because I'm looking at it from a coach's perspective. I'm working at a high level. What you do today will affect you tomorrow. So all the things you're doing now as you're training to make you into a better fighter. I remember telling people, Jessica McCaskill, when she narrowly got beat by Taylor, I said, this girl's a pretty good fighter. She goes and ends up becoming undisputed. How many guys have we had on this channel who's either been unified or undisputed? Even Boots, look at the last one that's been on this channel, Boots Innis, champion. And I think Boots Innis is heavily flawed. I think he's heavily flawed. He gets hit way too much as a welterweight. Hits way too much against mediocre opposition. But yet we're pushing Boots Innis to be the next superstar. He's not a superstar. Who is he beating to be a superstar? But we're ready to call him a superstar. He's not a superstar. And I'll tell you as it is, Boots Innis is a good fighter. But he's flawed. If you punch with Boots Innis, you'll hit him. And if you can hit him and you're a big puncher, those legs will go. You can't keep fighting the copy and paste every fight and not making adjustments. These guys are not making adjustments because the trainers are not as good as they used to be. So it's copy and paste, do the same thing over and over again until somebody reads you and clocks you. And that's going to happen to Boots Innis sooner rather than later. I told you right here, so you've heard it. So you tell me. Let's keep going on. Martin McCauley is a bogeyman. When was he a bogeyman? Who is telling you this rubbish? Martin McCauley, the first time I saw Martin McCauley, yeah, I saw this guy. I thought he was going to be the next Ike Ibuchi. I thought he was going to be the next president. When I saw this guy box fighting, I thought this guy's going to, and he came against Michael Hunter. Stupid me, going against my mentor, James Ali, who trained Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter gave Usyk a lot of problems. Michael Hunter was a good heavyweight himself. So Michael Hunter fights Bakoli. Bakoli fought with his face, but Hunter punched in bunches. He was able to take what Bakoli had. He was able to use his feet, maneuver around the ring, and punch Bakoli 4 and 5 punches. At one point, Bakoli he was asking himself, I don't even want to be here. Millie Nelson had to force him to continue to fight. Now you tell me, honestly, where Martin Bakoli has improved from that fight of Hunter to today. He still fights with his face. He's just fatter. Any man that is prepared to travel from the Congo, right, to come to fight Joseph Parker on 24 hours notice, right, and he's talking about a bogeyman and he's a world-class athlete. He came in unacceptable condition. Yet there were people that thought Martin Bakoli would have beaten Joseph Parker, a guy who was prepared meticulously. Nonsense. Absolute garbage. Who are these people making these ridiculous calls? So when Bakoli gets knocked out now, it's like, oh, well, if Bakoli had lost weight. No. If Bakoli had lost weight, he still would have got hit with that same punch. Why? Because the guy's got no damn defense. He fights with his face. He's got no defense. And when he sets his attacks up, half the time, it's like he's sparring. Bakoli, listen, and Bakoli's another guy that I've interviewed, Billy Elson. And with respect, I'm talking this now. I'm not disrespecting them. But I'm not going to put people on pedestals that haven't earned the right to be on pedestals. What the hell is Bakoli? Bakoli is a bogeyman. Who is he beating to be? I say the same thing about Mike Tyson. You can't put Bakoli and Tyson in the same league. But it's the same crap. Mike Tyson was considered the baddest man on the planet. But if you look at the people Mike Tyson was knocking out on his way to heavyweight champion of the world, they were bums. And they were absolute bums. And if you don't believe me, go back and look at the Mike Tyson documentary. And it had, what's his name? The two guys. I think it was, I forgot the guys' names now. But the two guys there, if my mind comes back, Bill Caton. Bill Caton's the guy. Go back and look at yourself. Bill Caton, even himself, comes back and says, yeah, we didn't care who Mike was knocking out. It could be bum of the week. But the fact of the matter is, we wanted to put in the minds of the boxing fans of this guy who was going around destroying people. And that's what they did. And up to this day, Mike Tyson is the greatest marketing strategy for a boxer I've ever seen. Because he was knocking out nobodies. Absolute bums. Trash. Don't get me wrong, Mike can fight. Right? But who he beat to become heavyweight champion of the world? Was that person the baddest man on the planet? Who was the baddest man on the planet? Trevor Berbick? Pinklet Thomas? Bum Christian Smith? Maybe it was Michael Spinks. Who was it that Mike beat to become a heavyweight champion of the world, which made him the baddest man on the planet? I don't get it. Mike didn't fight anyone that was notoriously known as a bad man. He wasn't. He fought Mitch Green. Mitch Green's a bad man. He wasn't never known as the baddest man on the planet. Right? To put this into context, right? If Mike had fought someone like Golovkin, I know they're in different weight categories. If he fought Golovkin, yeah? If he had fought if he had beaten Sonny Liston, or George Foreman, or Muhammad Ali, or Joe Frazier, and they were bad men you're talking about there. If he knocked any of those dudes out, yeah, then you could call him the baddest man on the planet. But Mike became the baddest man on the planet, not based on the fact of what he did, but what they did in the background of his promotional stuff. That's Mike Tyson. But back to what I told you so. Martin Bakoli will never be the baddest man on the planet, and he will never be the bogeyman, because you cannot. First of all, to be a bogeyman, right, you have to be able to discipline a man, right? You need to be like a commander and a general, right? And to be a commander and a general over other people, right, and be an elite, you yourself have to be elite. You have to be in shape. You have to make sure that you coming on weight. You coming on point. You fight in a way that's on point. And Bacoli's none of those things. Bacoli's fight was 300 and something pounds against Parker. Okay, so you were in the Congo, indisciplined, eating whatever you wanted to eat, African food, and enjoying the life. Okay, so you came to the UK, or you came to Saudi, and you fought Parker. You get yourself knocked out, stupid. The punch you threw the punch before, you threw a punch in the chin, and you went like this. So to me, common sense will say, put your freaking hands up. So what do? You leave your chin in the air and get whacked over the top of the right hand again. You get knocked out. The legs go from under you. People say, "Oh well, if Bacoli had lost weight, he'd be better." If Bacoli, it don't matter what Bacoli turned, he still got chinned. It doesn't make a difference. But boxing fans will listen to rubbish. You listen. So that's Martin Bacoli. Last night, FA Jagba, I said FA Jagba's got a good jab, he's got a good right hand. My problem with FA Jagba is his mental setup. And in that fight, you saw FA Jagba start to lean, sit on the ropes, lay back on the ropes, all sort of nonsense. But to a Jagba's credit, he's knew how to tuck up and catch shots. That was good. And I'd rather see a Jagba or Jagba stiff, a Jagba took Bacoli shots, tucked up nicely. I don't know, but a Jagba seems to mentally switch off in fights. So he too, good fighter. But Jagba's more of a bogeyman than Bacoli. But neither of them are elite standard. Good fighters, not elite. A Jagba could be elite if he can get his head right. Because he's got a good chin, throws a good jab, got a good right hand, can maneuver around the end, can defend when under pressure. So he's got attributes there. But I don't know if it's a Jagba's killer instinct. Something happened to a Jagba when if it's Ronnie Shields. I don't know what happened at that time. Jagba was hot. And since that time, Jagba seems to have just fallen by the wayside. Really, literally. But Bacoli's an average heavyweight. Let's not get it twisted. He's no bogeyman. He ain't beaten no bogeyman. And he ain't no bogeyman. He's just packaged that way. I don't know why they packaged him that way. And we know Jared Anderson was flawed because Jared Anderson fought the former IBF heavyweight champion of the world. I walk this earth like a god. What's his name? Can't remember his name again. I'm very forgetful today. Can't remember the guy's name again. But yeah, him. And he exposed Anderson there. He could have knocked Anderson out. But he was told to take it easy. But we saw what Anderson was about. But I thought Anderson was good enough to beat Bacoli because of his defensive flaws. Proves out that Anderson was more flawed than we thought. So let's move on with the I told you so's. So Bacoli, no. Ryan Garcia, no. Let me give you a futuristic one. Oh, people are talking. Sorry, people, I didn't see it. It's Eddie Hearn, Rick Top, Ingmar Sprex again. I think Ennis will wind up undisputed, but it will be during the time of influx of welterweight division. Opataya, listen, another guy. I like Opataya. And I love the guy's demeanor. I love the way he fights. But he gets hit too often. Sorry, he does not beat Usyk. I think calling people bogeymen today is overused in boxing. He should be ready all the time. Exactly. Brother, say it. Love the real talk. You're a real one. I know. Bert Sugar. And Mike Tyson trained like a world-class... He was lethal. Back then, when they were called bogeymen, yeah. My brother, thank you, brother. About time someone speaks the truth on the net, absolutely. King Charles, Charles Martin. As we know that their IBF title was bought for Joshua. Have you ever seen Martin go down so easy? Since that fight, has he ever gone down so easy? And Martin turns and after the fight on a lot, Mike, let me tell you what you did wrong and why you couldn't get me. So let's go on. More bullshit. Who else are they hyping up? Absolute bullshit. Let's go with Moses Atalma. Absolute bullshit. How can you be rating Moses Atalma and putting this guy's head? Ben Davison said, "Oh yeah, we're ready to stick him in the ring at the end of the year with Alexander Usyk." Absolute bullshit. So I didn't know Davison McKean was the gatekeeper of the heavyweight division. For absolutely nobody. Yeah, he sidestepped, landed a good shot on Dempsey McKean, right? But I think most of us could probably sidestep and hit Dempsey McKean with that shot, to be honest. I'm not funny, you know. And when my dad used to sit down back in the day, he said, "Oh yeah, I can beat that guy, I can beat that guy, I can beat that guy." I used to think it was being funny. But it's actually true. Back in the day, right? I sound like an old man here. Back in the day, you had to prove yourself as a fighter. And it went like this. We need to see you hit and get hit. We need to see you get through a crisis. And then we need to see you move for the gears. British, Commonwealth, European, world. That's how it went. That's why I respect guys like Clinton Woods. Back in the day, like heavyweight champion. British, Commonwealth, European, world. That's how it went. You jump the scale. You England, the fans are waiting at the ground. British, Commonwealth, European, world. You were tested before anyone could say this is the next coming of. Right? You were tested. Do you remember back in the day when they were saying that Robert Helenius was the heir to the Klitschko's? Do you remember that garbage? And Helenius had fought nobody. What happened to Helenius? Do you remember what they were saying about David Price? And David Price was the second coming of... Listen, Kubrat Pulev was putting a beating on David Price in sparring. And I was hearing them stories. I mean, getting punched up in sparring. I was hearing the same stories about Anthony Joshua getting punched up in sparring. And say, "Oh, well, those rumors." They say, but wait, if you're hearing them rumors more than once, I'll tell you another story I heard. I remember when Macronel was going to fight Afolabi, yeah? And I want to know about this Afolabi. Ola Afolabi. Do you remember Ola Afolabi? He was cruiserweight. And Macronelli was WBO king, yeah? I heard about Macronelli and I heard about Afolabi. And in the gyms in New York, they say, Afolabi had a very good chin and he can punch. And good stamina. Good chin, stamina, and can punch. Okay. We know Macronelli hasn't got a good chin, hasn't got great stamina, but is a brutal puncher. Well, what happened? Afolabi took what Macronelli could throw and laid him out flat. How did I know? You listen to stuff across the gyms, you hear the stories. You know when fighters are doing well. You know, like there's certain things you know from time. You know when a guy hasn't got a good chin. Because you start seeing the sort of guys he fights. Guys who can't punch. I told people about Luis Ortiz. They didn't listen to me. I said, you guys bringing Luis Ortiz back. And who's he fighting against? I'm fighting the guy who's a one-rounder. I said, this guy's not going to beat Deontay Wilder. Why? Because he does not face the proper puncher. What happened in 2 fights? The first fight was close until Wilder got hold of him. The second fight, I said, as soon as Wilder pops this guy on the chin with the right hand, he's over and done with. Nah, it's not going to happen. Boom, one right hand. Good night. So what do we have now? Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Ben cannot block a jab. He still can't block a jab. Right? He can't fight and back it up. He comes forward in straight lines. And if he's the puncher that they say he is, Why did he knock Eubank out? This is a guy that was coming up 2 weight divisions, but yet in the last year he was fighting at light middleweight. So how can we jumping up 2 weight divisions? And this is a guy that told us, I'll fight Eubank at any weight. But yet, when the fight comes right now, you're dehydrating a man. And then your promoter saying, oh, well, it's not fair. I told you couldn't block a jab, right? If you cannot block a jab in boxing, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a massive problem. And Conor Benn had a massive problem. People said Ben won the fight. Where did he win the fight morally? And I said, he's the people's champion. How does Ben become the people's champion? Eubank had to do all the stuff he did, right, to get the fight with Ben. Dehydrate his body. And then put himself in the ring in a dangerous position. And then fight Ben, who was the drugs cheat. You tell me. Do you remember back in the day with Conor Benn? Here's something. You remember back, and I'm just pulling this up for people to remember, yeah? When Conor Benn used to fight, do you remember how Ben used to be really aggressive at all these his fights? It used to be really... He's not that way anymore. And it's interesting how that coincides with the fact now that he got caught. I think, in my opinion, that fighters that get popped, not only the fighters should go down, the trainer should go down, and the strength and conditioning coach should go down. They should all go down. They should all go down. Why? Because you're part of the team. You condition that fighter. You need to go down. So when Ben went down, Sims should have gone down. Whoever else was involved in that camp should have gone down. Because I can only assume that they were profiting off the success Ben was having. So Ben may have been doing the fighting, but they were doing the training. So why don't they all go down? Why don't they all go down? But I think Sims and Hearn are connected, brother-in-law or distant, some sort of cousin or something like that. It's in the family, innit? So, I don't know, mate. I'm just thinking that in future, fighters get popped, their training should go down as well. That will stop the popping, I think. So, I still think Joshua and Tyson are going to fight. Crawford versus Canelo. For the first time, right, I've looked at this fight. I looked at him standing next to one and I thought, Jesus, there's not much in it. But then I thought, Canelo has taken years to get up to this weight division. Crawford is a couple of months. And I don't know how Crawford's body will respond to Canelo's punching. Canelo, to me, has become but he's got himself into the habit of just walking guys down and working into the body and punching them. And that's what he seems to get away with. Can he do that against Crawford, who's moving up in weight? I don't know. I know he'll catch him, but Crawford will come with speed, hand speed, that may be a problem for Canelo. But if he corners Crawford, I don't know, man. Crawford was getting touched up a lot by Madronov. He was getting hit a lot by Madronov. And I'm thinking if he's getting the same sort of ferocity by Canelo, can't get away with that. And there's certain feints and tricks that Canelo would have learned over the years. I don't know, man. I don't know. And as for the hand holding of Canelo, of Crawford holding Turki Al-Sheikh's hand, it's customary. It's something that happens within the Arabic culture. So it's just cultural. Turkey Al Sheikh holding the fighter's hand is cultural. Although it's cultural, I still do think it's in boxing and in business. It's not a good look. It shows a bias or favoritism one way or the other. Right, I think I'm going to come to the end of this show, but thank you all so much. To me, my thoughts of this: if you've not been hit back, if you've not been in any sort of adversity in a fight, if I've not seen you had to come back from some form of difficulty, as far as I'm concerned, you're still questionable. Because at some point it's going to happen in your career, and when it happens, then we'll know what you're about. Boss, I need money for Dagestan camp. What Dagestan? 6 months, preferably 10 years. What? Let's do some FC25. I think FC25 tonight. I'm gonna sim it. I'm gonna sim the league, and I'm gonna go for the Champions League. That's it for me. Right. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments, as always, and check out our gaming. I'm out of here. Thanks so much.